In the dusty, sun-scorched town of Redemption, a name whispered on the wind carried both fear and a hint of dark amusement. Silas the Serpent Kane. He was a gunslinger whose arrogance was as legendary as his lightning-fast draw. Silas slithered into town not for riches or revenge, but for sport. He'd heard tales of Redemption's peace, a peace maintained by a retired lawman, Sheriff Elias Thorne. The townsfolk said Thorne had hung up his guns for good, trading lead for ledgers, his once steely gaze softened by the quiet life. Silas saw this not as a respectable retirement, but as a weakness to be exploited, a legend to be shattered for his own glory. He strode into the saloon, the swing doors groaning like a dying man. The piano player's fingers froze mid-tune. Silas's spurs were the only sound, a metallic hiss against the floorboards. He ordered a whiskey, downed it in one gulp, and slammed the glass on the bar. "I hear this town is protected by a ghost," he announced, his voice a venomous drawl. "A so-called legend named Thorne. I've come to put that ghost back in the ground." An old-timer at a corner table, brave or foolish, spoke up. "Sheriff Thorne earned his peace. You'd best leave it be." Silas just laughed, a cruel, sharp sound. He drew his pearl-handled revolver, so fast it was a blur, and shot the man's hat clean off his head. The hat spun in the air before landing in the spittoon. "Anyone else have advice for me?" he sneered. Silence was his answer. The message was clear. Over the next few days, Silas terrorized Redemption. He wasn't robbing or killing, not yet. He was toying with them. He'd shoot apples off market stalls, make men dance by firing at their feet, and laugh as townsfolk scrambled for cover. He was a predator playing with his food, and his true target was Elias Thorne. He wanted to draw the old lion out of his den, to force him to fight, to prove that Thorne's time was over and his had begun. The town was suffocating under a blanket of fear, their peaceful existence a distant memory. The whispers began to change. They were no longer of Thorne's quiet life, but desperate pleas. "Where is the sheriff? Where's the man they called the judge?" Elias Thorne heard it all. From his small office, he watched the town he'd sworn to protect cower. He was a man wrestling with his own past. Every night he saw the faces of the men he'd put down, the cost of the peace he'd fought so hard to win. He'd made a promise to his late wife to leave that life behind, to be a man of peace. The silver star pinned inside his drawer felt heavier than a tombstone. But Silas Kane was different. This wasn't about justice or survival. It was about cruelty. It was a disease, and it was infecting his town. The breaking point came when Silas cornered the blacksmith's young son, making the boy hold a tin can on his head for target practice. The boy's terrified whimpers reached Thorne's office like a physical blow. Something inside Elias Thorne snapped. The quiet, gentle bookkeeper vanished, and in his place stood the man they used to call the judge of the frontier. He walked to his drawer, his movements slow and deliberate. He pulled out his old gun belt, the leather worn and familiar. He strapped it on, the weight of grim comfort. Then he pinned the silver star back onto his chest, its polished surface reflecting the face of a man who had accepted his fate. He didn't look angry. He looked hollow, his eyes two chips of ice. He was no longer a retired lawman. He was a force of nature, an instrument of reckoning. The merciless sheriff was awake. Thorne stepped out onto the main street. The sun was high, baking the dirt road. The town was eerily silent, windows shuttered, doors barred. Everyone knew what was coming. At the far end of the street, Silas Kane stood waiting, a smug grin plastered on his face. He'd gotten what he wanted. "Well, well, the ghost walks," Silas crowed. "Come to have your legend buried, old man?" Thorne didn't answer. He just walked forward, his pace steady, unhurried. Each step was a drumbeat, counting down the final seconds of Silas Kane's life. The arrogance on Silas's face began to falter, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. He was looking at a man who wasn't there to fight a duel. He was looking at an executioner. Silas saw the change too late. The man walking towards him wasn't the weary old-timer he'd been told about. This was the man from the legends, the one who never missed, the one who never hesitated. Panic flared in Silas's eyes. He went for his gun, his famous fast draw suddenly feeling clumsy and slow. It was a desperate, panicked move. Thorne's draw, in contrast, was a study in brutal efficiency. It wasn't flashy or theatrical. It was a single, fluid motion born of 100 gunfights. Before Silas's pistol had even cleared its holster, Thorne's gun was up, level, and it roared once. The sound echoed through the silent town like a crack of doom. Silas Kane stood frozen for a moment, a look of pure shock on his face. A small dark hole appeared in the center of his chest. He looked down at it, then back up at Thorne, his mouth opening as if to say something. But no words came. He crumpled to the ground, his pearl-handled revolver clattering uselessly in the dust. The serpent was dead. Silence descended once more, but this time it was different. It wasn't the silence of fear. It was the silence of awe. Thorne stood over the body for a long moment, the smoke curling from his barrel. He wasn't a hero celebrating a victory. He was a man who had done a terrible, necessary thing. He turned and walked back to his office without a word, the silver star on his chest a heavy burden once more. The peace had returned to redemption, but it had come at a price. The townsfolk learned a valuable lesson that day. Some legends are better left undisturbed, because waking them can unleash a wrath more terrifying than any outlaw. The most merciless sheriff was the one who just wanted to be left alone. Thanks for watching our story today. If you enjoy tales from the Old West and stories of justice, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you do not miss our next video. We love bringing these legends to life for you. Drop a comment below and let us know what you thought of Sheriff Thorne. Until next time, stay safe out there.